Hi, and welcome back to this new module of Upcycled Art for Education and Social Inclusion, called Visual Art for Education. In this module, we will explore visual arts. First of all, we will understand what is visual art and have an overview of some common or useful techniques. In the second half of the module, we will present you some activities that you can implement with your young people and the learning outcomes that they enable you to achieve. Visual arts encompass a wide range of artistic disciplines that primarily rely on visual perception to convey ideas, emotions, and experiences. These art forms use various elements like color, shape, line, texture, and space to create works that stimulate the senses and provoke thought and emotion. Visual arts can be both traditional and contemporary, and they encompass a diverse array of mediums and techniques. We will take a look at 3 types of visual arts: painting, drawing, textile. For each of them, we will explore how they can be used to express oneself, and we will give you a couple of examples of low-cost, high-creativity, environment-friendly activities that you can deliver for your young people. None of the activities presented will require you to have experience. In fact, the least experienced you are, the better. Well, let's dig into it. Painting. Painting is one of the most traditional forms of visual art. Paintings can range from realistic representations to abstract expressions of the artist's vision, and it enables artists to explore and convey a wide range of emotions and feelings. Through the use of color, composition, brushwork, and subject matter, painters can evoke, communicate, and express both their own emotions and the emotions of their viewers. But what are the key elements of visual arts? Color palette. Color is one of the most influential elements in painting when it comes to evoking emotions. Different colors can trigger specific emotional responses. For example, warm colors like reds, oranges, and yellows often convey warmth, energy, and passion. Cool colors like blues and greens can evoke calmness, tranquility, and sadness. Dark and muted colors may create a sense of melancholy, and while bright colors can express joy. Composition. The arrangement of elements within a painting plays a crucial role in conveying emotions. It determines where the viewer's eye is drawn and can create a sense of balance, tension, or chaos. For example, a centered composition with balanced elements may convey stability and calm. An asymmetrical composition with off-center subjects or unbalanced elements can create a feeling of tension or unease. Diagonal lines and dynamic compositions can suggest movement and excitement. Subject matter. Artists often use human figures, facial expressions, body language, and gestures to communicate feelings. Landscapes, still life, and abstract forms can also be imbued with emotional content through artistic choices and symbolism. Symbolism. Artists often use symbolism to represent emotions and ideas in their paintings. For example, a wilting flower might symbolize decay and sadness, while a rising sun can symbolize hope and renewal. Narrative and storytelling. Paintings can tell stories or capture moments in time, allowing viewers to connect with the emotions of the depicted characters or scenes. Viewers can empathize with the emotions of the characters or events portrayed. Personal expression. Artists use painting as a means of personal expression, allowing them to explore and release their own emotions onto the canvas. The act of painting can be therapeutic, helping artists process their feelings and experiences. Painting is a powerful tool for exploring and expressing emotions as it enables for interplay between the artist's emotional expression and the viewer's emotional response. Artists use various elements such as color, composition, brushwork, subject matter, symbolism, and personal expression to convey a wide spectrum of feelings. Viewers, in turn, engage with paintings on an emotional level, connecting with the artist's intentions and often finding personal resonance in the artwork. Drawing is a fundamental skill in visual arts and can include various techniques such as pencil, charcoal, ink, pastels, and digital tools. It is a versatile and expressive visual art form that allows individuals to convey their thoughts, emotions, and ideas through lines, shapes, and marks on a surface. Whether using traditional tools like pencils and charcoal or digital devices, drawing offers a direct and immediate way to communicate and express oneself visually. The key elements of drawing are very similar to the ones in painting, and they are as follows: line and mark making. Drawing relies heavily on lines and marks, which can vary in thickness, length, and direction, and their choice is a fundamental aspect of self-expression. Different lines can convey various emotions and qualities. Straight, precise lines may suggest control and order. Jagged or erratic lines can convey tension or anxiety. Curved, flowing lines may express calmness or grace. Composition. Just like in painting, the composition of a drawing is crucial for expressing oneself. The arrangement of elements on the page or canvas can convey emotions and messages. For example, a centered composition may suggest balance and stability. An asymmetrical composition with off-center elements can create a sense of tension or movement. Negative space, or the empty areas around the main subject, can be used to influence the overall mood and focus of the drawing. Subject matter. What an artist chooses to draw can be deeply personal and reflective of their feelings. Subjects can range from everyday objects to abstract concepts, and the choice often reflects the artist's interests, concerns, or experiences. Style and technique. An artist's unique style and technique can become a signature way of expressing themselves. The technique employed, such as cross-hatching, stippling, or blending, influences its emotional impact. Emotional expression. Drawing allows individuals to directly express their emotions. For instance, drawings of joyful scenes can capture happiness and excitement through vibrant colors and energetic lines. Depictions of sad or melancholic moments might use subdued colors and soft, delicate lines to convey a sense of introspection or sorrow. Expressive portraits can reveal the artist's emotions through the portrayal of facial expressions and body language. Symbolism. Artists often use symbolism in their drawings to represent complex emotions, ideas, or experiences. Objects, animals, or abstract forms can be imbued with personal significance and convey hidden meanings. Narrative. Drawings can tell stories or depict a sequence of events. Narrative drawings can be used to express personal experiences, dreams, or fantasies, allowing the artist to share their inner world with others. Therapeutic and cathartic. Drawing can be a therapeutic and cathartic activity that helps individuals process their feelings and reduce stress. Creating art can be a form of self-care and a way to explore and release emotions. Viewer interpretation. Viewers bring their own perspectives and emotions to their interpretation of a drawing. Different viewers may resonate with or interpret a drawing in various ways, making it a means of connecting and communicating with a broader audience. Drawing as a visual art is a powerful tool for self-expression. It allows individuals to communicate their thoughts, emotions, and experiences through lines, shapes, composition, style, and subject matter. It can serve as a personal outlet for creativity, a means of sharing one's inner world, and a way to connect with others on an emotional and visual level. Whether as a form of personal expression or as a medium for communication, drawing plays a significant role in the realm of visual arts. Textile arts. Textile arts encompass the creation of art using textiles, including weaving, quilting, embroidery, and fabric dyeing. Artists often explore the intersection of form and function in textiles, creating both practical and aesthetic pieces. Textile arts encompass a diverse range of creative practices that involve the manipulation and transformation of textiles, materials such as fabric, yarn, thread, and fibers, into various forms of art. This versatile medium can be used to convey emotions, tell stories, and provide a means of expression for individuals with communication obstacles. Textile art is more complex than the other two visual art forms seen until now. This is because it is three-dimensional, and while colors or patterns chosen can still have a strong symbolic impact, an important role is also played by physical textures and the working technique used. Below, we will see some of the most common techniques. Weaving. Weaving involves the interlacing of threads or fibers to create the fabric. Weavers can use various techniques to produce intricate designs, textures, and color combinations. The repetitive and meditative nature of weaving can be soothing and therapeutic for individuals with communication difficulties. Embroidery. Embroidery is the art of decorating fabric with stitches and threads. Artists can use different stitch types, thread colors, and patterns to express feelings in their work. Quilting. Quilting involves the stitching together of layers of fabric to create a quilt. Quilts can be highly expressive and narrative, as each patch of fabric may hold personal significance. Quilting can serve as a storytelling medium, with each quilt square representing a different emotion or memory. Fiber sculpture. Artists can use textile materials to create three-dimensional sculptures and installations. These sculptures can be abstract or figurative, conveying emotions through form, texture, and color. The tactile nature of fiber sculptures can be particularly engaging for individuals with communication difficulties. Dyeing and surface design. Textile artists often experiment with dyeing techniques to create colors and patterns. Tie-dye, batik, and shibori are examples of dyeing methods that can evoke specific emotions through color and texture. Needle felting. Needle felting involves using barbed needles to sculpt and shape wool fibers into three-dimensional forms. This technique can be used to create expressive figures or abstract compositions that convey emotions through form and texture. Materials as a channel for feelings. Textile arts offer several ways for individuals with communication obstacles to express their emotions and thoughts through the use of different material. Sensory work is particularly important when working with people with learning disabilities, as it enables them to use multiple senses combined to facilitate communication. Texture and touch. The sensation of touching and interacting with different textiles can be therapeutic and provide a non-verbal means of communication. Artists can choose materials with textures that resonate with their feelings and invite touch. Pattern and repetition. Patterns and repetition in textile art can symbolize routine, consistency, or even obsession. This can be a way for individuals to communicate the repetitive nature of their thoughts or emotions. Narrative quilts. Quilts can serve as a powerful storytelling medium. Each square of fabric can represent a specific emotion, memory, or experience. These quilts become visual narratives that convey personal stories. Sensory comfort. Textile arts can provide sensory comfort through the creation of soft and comforting objects like blankets, stuffed animals, or wearable art. These items can offer a source of solace and security for individuals with communication difficulties. In conclusion, textile arts provide a rich and tactile medium for individuals with communication obstacles to express their feelings. Through a variety of techniques and material choices, artists can create artworks that communicate emotions, experiences, and stories, providing a means of self-expression and connection with others when verbal communication is challenging. Textile arts serve as a bridge to understanding and empathy for those who engage with the artworks. Now that you have a general understanding, I believe it's time to give you some examples. From now on, we will try to answer to the question, how do we use these techniques in practice? Obviously, there are many ways for you to use visual arts in your teaching or educational activities. The key concept to always keep in mind is that all the activities that you can think of are flexible, meaning you can use them to reach one or multiple learning objectives. You can take ownership of them and add or remove components to address different target groups and learning needs. We will present you some activities and suggest some ways in which these can be used. The list is non-exhaustive, and I would encourage you to look further into them or other. Before we start, remember that all the activities that we will go through, as well as every art-based activity, may lead to participants disclosing personal experiences, including trauma or negative events. This course is not aimed at providing you clinical guidance of actions to put in place should you evidence traumatic experiences among your learners. If you do, please refer to your organization's health and safety guidelines and Safeguarding Young People's Policy. Activity 1. Altered magazine photo. For this activity, you will need a magazine, scissors. Remember health and safety measures especially if you do this activity with younger people or children. Glue, paper sheets, crayons, pencils, pens, paint and brushes, or any type of drawing tools really. Ask the participants to cut out the photo of a face from the magazine and to glue it on a paper sheet. Looking at the face, each participant will have to think of a story for that person connected to the topic that you have been discussing. For example, imagine that you are discussing or want to discuss the environment. A participant may choose the photo of a young white woman with blonde hair, who we will call Maria, and think about a story that involves Maria and the environment. They will not need to share the story they have in mind with others. Not yet, at least. Now ask the participants to draw on or around the face to bring their story to life. For example, in the participant's mind, Maria might be a sustainable fashion entrepreneur, and she would struggle to find innovative fabrics to produce long-lasting clothes. The participant will maybe draw a factory in the background, or a light bulb next to Maria's head, or maybe a brain with cogs where Maria has her head. They do not necessarily need to just draw. They might add additional photos from the magazine or exchange magazines one another. Once the activity is done, they will pass the paper one another, and each of them will have to read the story drawn by the other participant. For example, I read your story, but you read Leonie's story, and Leonie reads someone else's story. Obviously, what they will read is how they interpret other people's drawings. This activity can have multiple learning objectives, depending on the context it is used in. Among others, it can be used to break the ice in a group. You can ask each of them to cut an image that represents themselves and draw things of their own lives that they perceive as significant. At the end of the activity, each of them could narrate their own story to the group. Talk about feelings. Sometimes, especially when engaging young people with difficult backgrounds, things are difficult to put into words. This can be a very good one-to-one activity to be done with young people who experience marginalization or distress, but it can be also good to discuss bullying, gender affirmation, sexual uncertainty, and so on. Discuss social issues, wars, the environment, climate change, but also maths, chemistry, or history. You could, for example, use it if you're teaching them of the molecular composition of a substance. You could ask the participants to cut out a person from a magazine and make them travel in a molecule. They would need to draw what the person sees around them. Same thing could be done for a history class. As you can see, this activity enables people to translate abstract concepts like numbers, feelings, molecules, or the Industrial Revolution into images. Overall, from it, you can support learners' memory skills through the association of concepts with images. You can help them visualize complex, abstract concepts, and you can enable them to clarify to themselves and to others their feelings. Activity 2. Painting events. For this activity, you will need a roll of white wallpaper, paint. Also, this activity, like the previous one, can be used to talk about a lot of different subjects, from social issues to education subjects. Basically, it consists in fostering learners' participation by encouraging them to visually represent what they hear and associate it with a feeling. Depending on the subject you will use it for, this activity is a great tool to foster self-reflection, analytical thinking, and exchange of opinions in your group. Let's see how to do it, though. First of all, draw on the roll of white wallpaper, a key element of the topic you want to discuss. You should really draw it as big as you can. For example, I want to use it to talk about environmental exploitation, since this training was created in the context of Hypatia, an environmental project. Right, so on my piece of wallpaper, as you can see, I drew a giant tree. Now, pour some paint into reusable plastic plates so that they cannot be broken, but you won't destroy the planet either. Now, you will need to start telling a story and ask your learners to use their hands to paint on the wallpapers the keywords that they hear. Make sure you tell them to choose the colors that they think better represent what they are going to draw. For example, my story starts with telling my learners how rich biodiversity is, how many animal species there are, and how natural cycles enable the environment to clean itself. At this point, Valentina, one of my learners, has painted a blue bird on the tree. Leonardo, another learner, has painted a pink flower. Leonie, my third learner, has painted orange leaves. At this point, I will go on telling my story, maybe talking about how human activity has changed natural cycles, how production has meant the introduction of chemicals that kill trees and animals. My learners will keep drawing what they hear, but this time they will draw a can of spray paint, a bottle or barrels full of chemicals. Once your story ends, take some time to ask your learners what is it that they drew and why they chose certain colors. Also, this activity can be used as an icebreaker, or to talk about social matters, or even formal education subjects. The key is obviously to change the main drawing and tell a different story every time. By using this technique, you will enable your participants to become part of the story. To be able to draw what they hear, they will need to imagine it and visualize it. At the same time, though, this will also speed up the learning process. Even though you narrate your story slowly, they will still have a limited amount of time to convert your words into images in their minds. Finally, this will be an opportunity for them to discuss jointly. In my example, different learners drew different things. But what if different learners drew the same thing with different colors? That may mean that they associate different feelings to a certain object. This could spark a group discussion per se. If you encourage each participant to explain why they chose that color and what that color make them think about or how it make them feel, you might well spark a conversation about people's perception of the world around them. Activity 3. Cooperative painting. For this activity, you will need A4 papers, crayons or pencils or pens. Give to each learner a piece of paper. Now, ask them to draw a certain object. You can choose the subject of your drawing depending on the topic you're using this activity to address. For example, if you're studying equations, you may want to ask your participants to start drawing one element that they believe is key in an equation. If you're teaching them how to build a parallel circuit, you might ask them to start drawing the circuit. If you're talking about gender equality, you might want to ask them to draw a woman and so on. Set a timer and, after 1 minute, shout, "Switch!" The participants will need to exchange the papers one another and continue the drawing started by someone else. At the end of the activity, ask each participant to take back the original paper they started working on and ask them to explain out loud what they wanted to draw and what instead the drawing ended up being. This activity is a great evaluation activity, even if, obviously, it can be modified to be, for example, an introductory activity. Using it as an evaluation activity, you can understand whether participants have reached the learning outcomes by analyzing what each person meant to draw and what instead the drawing ended up being. For example, once you've explained the French Revolution, you could ask your learners to draw the most significant event. To use it as an introductory activity instead, you could ask the learners to start drawing the first thing that comes to their mind when you mention a certain concept. For example, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say environmental pollution? Depending on the reason why you decide to implement it and the topic you're using it for, you can also variate the time each learner has to draw. Overall, however, this activity enables group work, and it is great to foster cooperative learning among people. Activity 4. Regression mandala. For this activity, you will need a piece of paper with a mandala printed on it, crayons. This activity is mainly for youth workers who work with young people who experience disadvantage, and it is aimed at fostering self-reflection and supporting them to process events. Ask your young person to think about a positive memory they have. It can be something that happened that same day or at some point in their lives. Ask the participant to choose the first color that comes to their mind and to color one part of their mandala. Now, ask them to think about the event that happened before their chosen happy memory and that they think led to it, and to color a different piece of the mandala with another color. For example, my happy memory is a walk in the park with my friend, and the event that led to it might have been a message from my friend asking to spend some time together because they were in a bad mood. You can ask your young person to keep regressing through events until they have finished coloring the mandala, or until they arrive to what they perceive as the beginning of the chain. They can talk you through all these events while they color the mandala and guide you through them. At the end of the activity, you can guide them to understand that also negative events can lead to positive ones and support them in looking at them under a different perspective. You can also modify this activity by suggesting your participants to instead think about their current mood and ask them to regress among events that led to it. Or maybe a choice they made and think about what led to that choice. Overall, this activity is mainly aimed at putting things into perspective and at supporting people to understand the cause and consequence effects of their decisions. It can also be a good way for them to process things that they perceive as wrong. If, for example, a person has doubts about a behavior they had, this activity could support them to understand that that behavior could have not been avoided because of the feelings they were feeling. You should be particularly careful when implementing this activity, as it might be triggering for some participants. If distressing events are brought up, we suggest discussing it with your supervisor and follow your organization Safeguarding Children policy. In conclusion, as you have seen, activities that use visual arts are particularly flexible. First of all, they can be used to both introduce topics and evaluate your learners' understanding of them. They can also be used to do psychological assessments and establish trust-based relationships with the people you support. The key concept to take home here is that you don't need to be an artist to implement them. You can find a wealth of resources online that you can download as a guide. It is important to remember that even if these are activities that work particularly well for people with learning obstacles, they can really be used by everyone. In the next module, we will focus on performing arts, and we will see how interaction and body movements can also be very valuable to channel learnings. I hope this was useful, and I will see you in the next module. Bye for now.